Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. I am your host, Ben Crossman, and welcome into the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. I hope all of you had a very relaxing and restful weekend as we get things kicked off here with a great show. And, if memory serves, the last time that this company was on the show was about 2015. So yeah, it's been a couple years, and happy to have him back on. But joining us is the illustrious, the HoverCam, and I'm really going to emphasize the, because HoverCam takes you to one website, the HoverCam takes you to today's guest. But don't worry about remembering that, because all that can be found at computeramerica.com, where we have a link directly to our guest website and so much more. And of course, speaking of the website, you can find things like the podcast, you can find things like any articles, just anything that we mentioned here, as well as the archives for the entire show can be found at the website. And also there, you'll find the contest to win a great prize from our friends over at Logitech. Just had a winner. I am just kicking myself because I realized that, unfortunately, I forgot to send the email off this weekend. So I'll do that after today's show. Sorry, winner. But yeah, if you also want to be forgotten until Monday, well, we could be calling your name this Friday live on the air. And all you have to do is go to our website and enter to win. And the last thing is the video portion, where you can watch Computer America and not just listen. Just another way to experience the show. Not mandatory, but something that we put a lot of work into, and we think that you would definitely enjoy it. So, with all that said, again, I hope all of you had a great weekend. We're able to get out and get some sunshine, get some vitamin D. I know that's can't get it all from your orange juice. And hey, ready for another full week of Computer America. So, joining us on today's show, and I apologize ahead of time, I got to get all this right, but joining us from the HoverCam is the one, the only, Mr. Jaime Paul Falcone, and he is with the marketing and media relations team over at the HoverCam. So, Jaime, thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Our pleasure, our pleasure. So, like I said, long-time listeners, you are no stranger, or at least, the HoverCam is no stranger, but at the same time, a lot can change in 2 years, and especially in a field such as yours, with the technology that, you guys produce. So, start off for the newcomers. What is the HoverCam? What do you make, and when did you guys start out? That kind of thing.
Well, we started out about 7 years ago as a document camera company. Document cameras are used to kind of support teachers and replace the outdated overhead projector that we all remember back when we were in school. I'm only in my early 30s, but we still had the overhead projector when I was in high school. And technology kind of took a jump, in the last decade and a half. And schools started bringing in digital document cameras as a way to show information to students. And HoverCam kind of came in there. They started making plug-and-play cameras.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, they kind of expanded the business from there. Now we make Wi-Fi enabled cameras. We've got document cameras that are 13 megapixel that do 4K resolution. We've got cameras that do slow motion video. And it's not just document cameras anymore. Now we're doing interactive flat panel technology, and we actually have the world's first fully integrated digital podium.
Right. So, and Obviously for school teachers, I mean, this kind of thing, you know, I think as teachers come into the field, they're used to technology. I mean, even teachers who've been in the field for a couple of years are always looking for ways to engage students, and a great way is, again, through technology. But could you go in a little further about, obviously this is one way, but just education, just educational technology as a whole. I mean, there's no doubt that technology has a hand in everything. Yeah, there's really not a field that technology has not had a hand in. Where do you see it for education? I mean, where's it making headway?
Well, right now we're seeing major players in the world of technology. Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg have both made education a focal point of, their charity work, and they're pushing to see an expansion of technology in education. Because we're dealing with a whole generation of kids who grew up with screens, who grew up with easy access to computers, and so for a while, it felt like we weren't concentrating on educating our students on how to use technology, and now technology has moved into the schools, and like you probably know someone that has a child, you may have a child yourself, who is better at technology than you will ever be, right?
Right.
So since the world has taken that turn, a lot of experts have thought to themselves, well, how do we nurture this? How do we make this grow? So The Economist just did a huge article on how educational technology is just changing how we school and how we learn, by pointing out people like Gates, people like Zuckerberg are funneling their money in there, and they're pushing for new advances, new ways to teach, new tools for teachers, new tools for students. So we're standing on the edge of a cliff, and we're just waiting for the right people to say, okay, let's make this jump. And I believe, and we here at HoverCam believe, that this jump is going to be nothing but beneficial. So
Right.
we're part of the group of companies that are making these parachutes to let us land safely, and so we can traverse forward with everything.
And I got to say, in my personal life, I live in North Carolina currently, and they have commercials running all the time where they're actually advertising that K through 12, just the traditional school system, they have a lot of options for learning from home. I mean, before it was like only for people, for students that had, special requirements, and, for what I felt were kind of helicopter parents that, really wanted to control every aspect of their kids' lives until they were 18. But now, I mean, even the school system, they realize, and I can only imagine this is through the use of technology, that you can get a classroom experience. You can, kind of tele-educate, if that's even a word, that you can have a presence even if you're not in the room. And I don't know if the HoverCam has, kind of catered to that, but I mean, how beneficial is it to be, to go from document scanner to being able to digitize anything in the classroom?
Well, the term you're looking for is distance learning, and distance learning is kind of one of the big buzzwords in education. We support distance learning. Our document cameras allow for full recording. We are working on, actually, we have a program on the market that allows for cloud-based sharing of recorded lessons. It's called Notester. It's a suite of apps that we give the teachers that just simplifies their entire teaching experience. They have the ability to control their rosters. They're able to upload their lessons in real time. It's got a chat feature where students can log in and talk to each other, so they can talk about certain things that happen during the lesson. They can directly talk to teachers. And with the growth of distant learning, with the growth of, people, we're in a digital world, Wi-Fi is going everywhere. You're able to get better education from different parts of the world. Being able to provide that support is something that we keep an eye to. It is very important to us that we help these teachers reach everybody that they can, and by using our products, we think they can. Right.
So obviously, you don't make a product without solving some kind of niche or need in the marketplace. That is the complete backwards way to make a product, is to go out there and say, here's what we have. Who wants it? No, obviously, these teachers they face problems. So, what are some of the major problems that that are facing teachers, and that I assume that that you kind of set out to solve?
Well, it's extremely important for us to be at the forefront of creating technology. Adaptation is something that all fields do, but it seems with education, the technology that they're given to adapt is at the end of its life cycle. So you're often seeing schools given these laptops or these traditional desktop computers that are at the end of their life cycle. They don't have much support. They're extremely outdated, and they don't work real well. We've decided to not do that. We've decided to create things fully. So there's a problem going on right now. As technology has gotten into the classrooms, we've seen the rise of interactive whiteboards and interactive flat panels. What these are either projection screens when they're whiteboards that you can touch and they do whatever you want them to do. With interactive flat panels, which is something we also make, it's a giant LED board with a computer built into the back that teachers use to, teach. It's replaced the chalkboard. We don't have any more whiteboards. A issue with that is that we're still losing student engagement by teachers turning their back. So we thought, well, how do we be fully engaged with the students? How do we make things student-centered? How do we, make sure that the rapport between teacher and student is always there? And we thought, well, what's the oldest way to teach? And, going back to Greek times, they always had a podium or a pulpit. And so we decided, why don't we make a podium that has all of these things that these interactive boards have, but allows the teacher to stand there and to use it. So we put together the Pilot, which is our digital podium. It's got a 21-inch touchscreen built into it. It's got an i5 or an i7 Windows-capable computer. It's got a document camera built into it. It's got a microphone for lesson recording or vocal projection. And it's fully connected to the internet. It's one wire that plugs in. It wirelessly connects to interactive flat panels, ours or anybody else's. And it allows these teachers to be fully engaged with the students at all times. It's also mobile, so if they want to move their podium into the center of the classroom, they can.
Right.
That is a problem that we saw, and we decided to fix it. So that's why we created this product.
Right. So, and I was going to say before a little bit later in the program, but I think this is a good time to do it. If you're watching the video portion, we are checking out the Pilot 3 right now. And I think it's a good time to kind of go, if you wouldn't mind, product by product that the HoverCam makes. Of course, starting with the Pilot, I think you gave a pretty good overview. But let's go a little bit more in depth into maybe some of the other specs, because this thing it looks really cool. I mean, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth. Can you connect other devices to it? I mean, what are some of the other kind of core features that make the Pilot something that you think school systems should kind of take note of?
Well, more than anything, it's the 10-point multi-touch interactive capabilities of it all and the mobile aspects. Can I tell you a little story?
Sure, go for it.
So we have interns here. Every company has interns. And we had an application from an intern from a local high school. And we filled our positions, and we really didn't pay much attention to it. Well, fall's coming up, so we started looking for fall interns. And we came across this young lady's application, and we looked at it. And she's part of a STEM team and a STEAM team who have national recognition. The STEM robotics team she was on got a $5,000 grant from NASA, and her STEAM team was going to be presenting at San Diego Comic-Con a few weeks ago. We thought, well, this is obviously a bright young lady. Maybe we should go talk to her. So we drove down into the middle of Comic-Con on a Friday afternoon. We walked in, we took her to lunch, and we said, we think you're brilliant. We'd like to bring you in. We want you to use the technology. What are you doing the rest of the day? Well, she was presenting at Comic-Con. And she said, well, I'm going to go run around Comic-Con. And I said to her, I have a digital podium, and I have an interactive flat panel. What if I brought these to Comic-Con to you on Saturday and you presented on that? And she said, oh, that would be amazing. And she asked me to explain it. And I explained it much like I just explained it to you guys. And she's like, oh, okay, that's cool, kind of like not fully understanding. Saturday morning, I brought her into the office. I put the podium in front of her, and I put the flat panel behind her. And she immediately, her eyes grew 10 sizes. She started playing with it. She knew exactly what to do. She was completely intuitive for it. I loaded it into the van. I snuck it in the back door at Comic-Con. I walked it into her presentation at Comic-Con. She's surrounded by professors from colleges who are writing their thesis on like superheroes and physics and how to do all of this, and they're all on old school poster board, and here's this high school kid and her STEAM teammates with this fully digital setup, and they're just making it fly. They're making it do everything they want it to do.
That
So,
and yeah, it's obviously and that's something that I noticed when I was going through school. Digital equipment was just coming in, but I mean, compared to I think what a lot of teachers are using, and to your point, compared to like a lot, if you can count all the other presenters at that event as all the other teachers in the industry, I mean, it's just night and day what you can do with just better equipment that's available today.
well, and it's not only just that. It's not only better equipment, it's actually also affordable equipment, because that's a big thing. There's a lot of interactive flat panels out on the market, but with the setups that they're pushing and the setups that they're selling, we're talking about $5,000 for a screen. For a screen that you can touch, that teachers don't always want to use because they lose the engagement. We have our own factories, and we have put our products at a price point that when we tell them to superintendents, we tell them to tech directors, and when we tell them to teachers, they're just like, you're lying to us. You're absolutely lying to us. Because you can get our flat panel and our podium for about $2,000 less than you would pay for, other places' flat panels. So it can't just be, hey, I have this cool technology, but let me price it out where nobody can get to it. You have to be able to think about your community and how you're going to get these into the communities and how they're actually going to be used and who can afford to get them. Because if you have a price point price points can be a barrier for people. And for schools, and we've seen funding across the board be cut for schools. If you're setting a price point that becomes a barrier, that means you're getting students that are underserved, you're getting teachers that are overworked. So we've set a price point that can get them into schools and makes teaching easier for teachers. It makes education better for students. And it's a whole concept here. We're not just developing what we consider to be the best tools on the market. We're developing the best tools on the market at the best price point so everybody can have access to these.
Very important indeed. So, and before we move on with the questions, again, I think we're going to go product by product. And I think a good next product to kind of cover would be, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's a component of the Pilot 3, but the sensor stage, which is your interactive touchboard. So
Yeah.
you do make the product.
So we do. We do make the center stage interactive flat panel. Flat panels seem to be where schools are going to. We offer the center stage in 65 inches, 75 inches, and 86 inches. You can get them with an infrared 10-point multi-touch. You can get them with a capacitive 10-point multi-touch. They're lean and they're mean. They've got Android operating systems in them right now. I've got one in my marketing bullpen where we play with it all the time. Yeah, these things are great. We don't use calendars or whiteboards anymore. We just use our center stage. We switch between apps on it. It's got a instant whiteboard touch on it, so all of our notes are put on there. It's literally almost infinite what you can do on these things.
How schools can be a very rough environment. I mean, people brushing up against them, backpacks, there's metal parts scratching it. Not to mention being rolled from classroom to classroom. How much of an emphasis on durability did you put on your products?
We put quite a bit of We put quite an emphasis on durability. The glass is shatter resistant. Nothing shatterproof, especially when you have kids involved, or in my case, 30-something marketing people. I've broken my fair share of iPhones lately. Shatter resistance is very important. They're also, because we're not putting computers on the back of them because they connect with our Pilot, They weigh considerably less, so if something does happen, let's say it gets knocked off a stand, you're less likely to see it break because we're talking about 130 pounds instead of 400 pounds, which is what happens with some of these larger models. Um, the screen life is, in line with our competitors. It's nothing lives forever, but we do our best to make sure it could get through, the tired and true day to day of being in a school.
Right. No, very, very important. And hey, that's part of it. Although I know some schools really like to drag out the end of life. I could have sworn I was using science textbooks that were 30, 35 years old. I mean, it was schools are schools. But no, of course, affordability helps with replacing them when they finally do need to be replaced. But okay, so the next two products, I'm hoping that you can kind of lump them together so we can, move on to some of the other questions. But I see here on the website the Solo 8 Plus and the Neo 100.
Nilo. It's the Nilo 100.
Nilo 100. So yeah, tell us about these two.
Okay, so the Solo 8 Plus is our 13 megapixel plug-and-play document camera. It offers 4K resolution on playback. It does 1080p recording. It comes bundled with our Flex 10 or Flex 11 software. It is pretty much the best document camera on the market. Teachers love how easy it is to use. It's got a low footprint because it is just plug and play. Now, the Nilo 100 is something that's really interesting. It's got an Android operating system in it. It's got Bluetooth capabilities. It's got Wi-Fi capabilities. It comes with a wireless mouse. You don't even need a computer to use this thing. You could just wirelessly connect it to any screen that you have, either through Bluetooth or through Wi-Fi, and it will do live annotation over images. It will do recording over images. It will store everything for you. It's really something unique and totally different on the market.
Definitely looks like it. And, one of the big selling points I'm kind of picking up here, you built this thing with with the Android operating system. How important was that?
It was very important, and it was very important to give people the capabilities that you would have in a small computer. A lot of schools use Chromebooks. A lot of teachers are very familiar with Android as it is. By putting the Android in the Nilo 100, we just expanded the capabilities that they have on their tablets to a document camera.
Okay. So yeah, and obviously these are, it seems like if you rolled all of these products that we've talked about into one, you essentially get, the Pilot 3. So it's, kind of breaking down the Pilot 3 into its parts, and you sell each one individually. I mean, and, they all have their benefits and their use cases. The last two, you touched lightly on it earlier, the Notester, and I assume it's going to be really quick, but the Clipper. What are these two?
Okay, so the Clipper is currently in development. The Clipper will make the Solo 8 Plus the only document camera that is certified to work with iPads. That's the Apple to Mac, the Mac to Windows to Android issue is something that a lot of companies are running into. So we started developing the Clipper to specifically work with iPads and iPhones and stuff, so you can turn your iPad into a fully capable document camera like you would your computer. Now, Notester is a interactive suite that takes all classroom software and puts it in one cohesive hub. Like I said before, it gives teachers access to a roster manager. It gives them the capability to share lessons instantly. It allows students a chat feature to go over lessons. It has a interactive whiteboard in it. It has document camera software that allows for live annotation. It has video recording. It has pretty much everything that you could possibly want in one little thing. You see a lot of schools running into issues of having one program work with another. We decided to just build all the programs and put it in one thing.
Right. Yeah, that is another huge pain point, is that you had to develop it. You had to use this software and you had to submit it through this online portal. Blah blah blah. It can definitely get to be quite the headache. So all right, those are your lineup, and obviously you are developing all the time. So all this, it came from the idea of being a document scanning company, you have since not only adapted but really specialized in education, in education. So I guess my question is, you have it here. What do you think is the difference between creating technology for education versus, kind of what I think a lot of other companies are doing, and that's adapting existing technology for use in education?
Well, by creating it and not adapting it, we're making sure that we're giving them we're putting our best foot forward. We're giving them the best possible product that we can produce. Um, you know, uh, Microsoft and their partners, they make Chromebooks, and a lot of those Chromebooks, like I said, have been on the market for 3 years until they adopted and given the schools. And it's nice of them to do that, but why aren't they, putting a division completely in charge of creating things at the forefront of technology for these educators and these students? That's what we want to do. We want to make sure that the products that we're creating are going to last. School budgets are always in flux. If we create a product and sell a product, we want to make sure that these teachers use them for an extended lifetime. And it's not because these products are, DOA when they get there. These products are brand new. They've been developed with teachers, and they're for teachers. We want to make sure that they're getting the best experience possible.
Absolutely. So, I mean, you must, run studies or, surveys, or I don't know how you collect your data, but there has to be some kind of correlation because you're seeing obviously, a lot of success here. But is there any correlation between, technology and the ease of access to information students? I mean, does technology help more than it hurts? Because I'm sure there's, a lot of parents out there who may be thinking, I learned from a book and a book is good enough for my kid. Does technology help?
I believe technology helps, and we believe technology helps here. These students are going to be on technology if we want them to be or not, and the best way to support that is by making sure that they have something that's useful and not something that they can just run wild with. By creating things that are specifically for education, we're not limiting what they can do with it, but we're limiting the chances of them doing something that they shouldn't with it. Do you understand?
Yeah, absolutely. And
So,
that was,
um,
yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
well, and it's another thing. When it comes to the development of technology in education, a lot of educators are on the younger side, and like you said earlier, they've worked with technology their whole lives. And if they're in these school classrooms and they're using computers or technology that is 6 years older than what they used in college, they're going to get discouraged, and we see less retention of educators. So by giving them better products, we're going to see more educators last longer in the field, which is in turn going to help students because there's going to be less turnover. Students build relationships, and it just grows from there.
Definitely, definitely. And we're not going to get into other reasons that teachers tend to have a low retention rate, but I mean, you have a lot of technology here. I mean, can you point to maybe one thing in particular that you can kind of say that, the HoverCam is making this and it's making a lot of others sit up, change their ways? Is there something that you're doing to maybe disrupt the market or impact the market?
I would say that would be the pilot. Like I said, nobody else has put together a digital podium. Everybody just put out these interactive flat panels and thought, okay, we solved this problem. It's there. But like I said, we keep running into educators, and they keep saying, oh, I have a smart board or a touch panel, and I just don't use it because I can't get my kids to pay attention because my back is turned and I can't connect with them. If I had this podium like you're showing me right now, I can talk directly, to John or Cindy or whatever. Becky or Chad is just right there, and I can fully interact with Becky. If she's having these problems, I can bring her up. She could work on the panel with me, and Chad can touch the pilot, and we can all interact together.
Gotcha. So, Jaime, I'm going to ask you, could you stay over just a few minutes just so we can finish the interview on the other side of the break?
Sure, sounds great.
Perfect. All right. So, everyone, we are talking to Mr. Jaime Paul Falcone. He is with the marketing and media relations team with the HoverCam. And yeah, we're talking all things education, technology, and the great slew of products that they have for educators, an often overlooked or hand-me-down or kind of second thought of technology use case. And, always fun to talk to them about this. So, music means we have to take a break. We'll be right back with Computer America just after this. Stay tuned.
We are all Brother Wolf. 10 years ago, a group of locals banded together to create positive change. We took animals into our homes, held adoption events at local retailers, and talked to the community about our mission to help build a no-kill Asheville. A decade later, we have achieved so many victories for animals in need. There's been so much progress, yet there's still so much to do. As part of our year-long celebration, we encourage you to become a member of our special Compassionate Circle program. With a monthly donation of $10 or more, you will have behind-the-scenes access to the work we are doing at Brother Wolf. Our goal is to reach 1,000 members because we receive no government funding. Working together, we can help build and sustain no-kill communities. Learn more at compassionatecircle.bwar.org. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.
And welcome back to the Computer America Show, 31 minutes past the hour. And if you missed any part of our interview so far, well, you're in luck. ComputerAmerica.com, video, audio, podcasts, all the archives that you could possibly want to catch up right there at your fingertips. As well as, of course, links to our guest website and any articles or videos that we show. So, continuing on with us is Mr. Jaime Paul Falcone with the marketing and media relations team for the HoverCam. And again, one more time, I want to emphasize the HoverCam because, HoverCam, it'll take you to another website. So the HoverCam, very important. And yeah, and Jaime, thank you for doing this. But yeah, I believe we were, we kind of left off with the idea that obviously you're impacting the market. The idea of a digital podium is something that will probably catch on. And I'm sure you're already seeing, a lot of interest in this because it combines traditional teaching techniques, but it adds a lot of technology that I think we're kind of used to, touch screens, being able to show things with camera, stand in front of your students looking at them. It combines a lot of traditional techniques with modern influences. So is this where you see the market going with educational technology? It's, is it trying to take the best of traditional practices and mix them with the best of technology, or where do you see this going?
Well, here's one way to look at this. It's 2017, right? We've been talking about the 21st century classroom since 1999, and we're no closer today than we were back in 1999. That's part of the reason that the podium exists, because it wants to push people into the 21st century classroom. We have to stop thinking about this conceptually. We have to think about this in reality. And the podium is something that's real. It's an actual digital tool. We can talk about, the 21st century classroom is going to have this, and it's going to have this, and it's going to have this. Well, all of those were promised, and they haven't actually been delivered. We've seen them in piecemeal small parts. By putting this podium together and putting them all together and pairing them with our center stage interactive flat panel, we're delivering. It becomes less talk and then an actual physical thing that people can touch and can actually use. We've all seen science fiction, and in science fiction, especially in films, we see these amazing classrooms with all of these things popping up, and we think, oh, well, I can't wait to get there. And the fact of the matter, people were dragging their feet, and they weren't getting there. And I'm not saying the pilot is a piece of science fiction, but it is pretty advanced for what you're seeing out there. And we want to deliver on this promise of the 21st century classroom, and we want to see an actual 21st century classroom probably before 2020. There are people born in the year 2000, who were supposed to have all this wonderful education and all this like advancement in front of them that are graduating high school right now.
Yeah.
They're starting college. There are 17-year-olds that are starting college, and they never had the opportunity to work and to learn in these classrooms that were promised. Well, it's time to start delivering on that promise, and we're here to deliver on it.
No, very very ambitious of you, because yeah, I mean, the adoption of, I think computers from what I saw and from what we're seeing is a breakneck speed. But you're right, it's 20 years into when it was supposed to be already here, and even what we're seeing is still a long shot from what we were promised. So I guess we can kind of shift our focus there. I mean, you said it. This is obviously not Minority Report level technology going into classrooms, but it is something. I mean, where'd you kind of define modern education and technology nowadays? Because the Pilot 3, good, great, something that you can call someone, buy, order, have in your hands. But where would you kind of define modern education? Like, is it one of these in every classroom? Yeah, go ahead.
One of these in every classroom would be, what would be ideal. Modern education, it should be fully interactive, and it should be fully student-centered. And by putting one of these in every classroom, you're allowing teachers to remain student-centered and to be completely engaged and completely interacted with them at all times, while also allowing the students the capability of working on something similar. Now, we're seeing a lot of learning apps being developed. We're seeing a lot of different technology being developed. And the thought process is, yeah, these are all great. These are all things that we need. We need to change how we learn. Well, you can't just go full bore into changing how we learn without first, in a way, reinventing what got us here in the first place. The podium has been around, like I said, since Greek times. So why not advance this as far as possible and put it, into a modern setting with modern capabilities? We know that it's an authoritative thing. A podium is a position of authority. You go to a conference, you go to a speech, there's somebody standing at a podium, to pay attention to them. Well, you go to a modern conference or a modern speech these days, they're having to hold a clicker and play with a laptop to get the images behind them to work. By giving them this fully digital podium, we restore that authoritative state, and we put everything right at their fingertips, and they're able to work. They're not losing anything. They remain the voice that leads you.
Right. Yeah. And, I'm sure that there have been a lot of great presentations, through the ages that can be done wirelessly, but teaching day in and day out, I mean, it's maybe not the best way to do this. So, and of course, all this and the ability to record and, everything that we've talked about here today, very important. So, and Jaime, one last time, you said before that the HoverCam is not the only one in this space. What would you kind of say makes HoverCam different from the others? One last time.
I would say it's our eye to making sure that every student and every educator has the best possible tools at their fingertips. There's a lot of tech companies out there, and a lot of them are doing great work. But they run into this thing where they prioritize profits over, what's going to actually help. We're obviously not saying we don't think about profits. Every company thinks about profits. They've got employees, and people have to make a living, and people have to have lives. But it's not such a focus that it keeps us from not putting the opportunity out there for lower income schools to have the best possible tools at their fingertips. Education is a vitally important thing to how the world changes. If you can change one way a student learns, that person can go on to change the world. So you have to put the best tools right there in front of them. Right.
And just like any other lottery system, play the odds, teach as many kids as you can, and that one will finally come out. So there you go. That was, I'm sure, poignant and offensive at the same time. So, Jaime, thank you so much for joining us here on Computer America. If anyone wants to find out more information, where should they go to?
They should go to www.thehovercam.com. We have an all-new website. We have a whole new blog series that are being popped up. Our YouTube channel has 101 HoverCam how-tos where we use our document cameras to show how they can be used in classrooms. We do everything from showing you how to fold origami to, well, I'm taking our Solo 8 Plus and putting it next to my car. I'm going to show people how to change a tire. We provide as many things as possible to help educators teach and see how they can use our products in their classroom. And come talk to us. We're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram. We love to be engaged with everybody that we can.
Okay, there you have it. So, everyone, one last time, we do have a link over at computeramerica.com. Find today's show notes. There it is. And again, Jaime, thank you so much for joining us here on Computer America. 2 years is too long. Please join us. 6 months, a year from now, and let us know what you're up to.
Sounds great. Thank you so much for having me.
Our pleasure. Our pleasure. So, have a great one. Bye-bye.
You have a great one. Bye.
All right, everyone, and there he goes. So, the HoverCam. And again, HoverCam, we should probably get, it's funny because, just kind of the name HoverCam, being Computer America technology oriented, funny story, HoverCam is probably right up our alley as well, but they're more about drones and what have you, whereas the HoverCam is everything that we've just talked about here in these past 40 minutes. So that was a lot of fun. One last time, thank you to the HoverCam. But in the meantime, we have some other things, that we should talk about. And these include everything from Intel to Apple to net neutrality to green energy. There's a lot to talk about. So why don't we do this computer and technology news brought to you by Computer America. All right. And so, and also brought to you by, of course, Fire Dragon Security, official sponsor of Computer America. And, if you want to have an all-encompassing intrusion detection system for your small business, well, Fire Dragon Security, they got your back. So, let's head on over to Intel. They're always fun to talk about because, well, they've been the leader in chip manufacturing for the past 25 years. I think they were recently, unseated. Get it? CPU unseated, whatever. But no, they were recently unseated by like Samsung or something. But hey, it comes and goes. Intel's been a huge player, and they will continue to be one of the core players in the market. Well, they came out recently with an announcement about the Core i9X series, which, for anyone paying attention, it's like their high-end premium consumer model that kind of technically works as a bridge between the i7s and the and the Xeon processors, which are business class, just blow your mind expensive. Well, don't get me wrong. These things are also expensive, but they are aimed at consumers, and especially consumers that are focused on the best of the best. And there's more of you out there than ever before. So here we have it. This from Devendra Hardawar from Engadget, saying that Intel unveils full specs for its 18-core i9 Extreme Edition CPU. So, yeah, just to be clear, this is, it's $2,000. Get that out of the way first. $2,000 for the best of the best, the tippy top that the i9 series has to offer. So, to get the start here, saying that today Intel revealed that the 18-core i9 7980XE, lots of numbers, lots of letters, features a base speed of 2.6 gigahertz with a turbo boost 2.0 clock of, get this, 4.2. Not half bad. Not half bad. And using Turbo Boost 3, which speeds up performance of its fastest two cores, it'll reach 4.4. So 4.4 gigahertz on 2 cores, that is extremely useful for programs that only use 2 cores. But for those of you who don't remember, the i9 series is positioning itself as the multitasker's dream. It's 18 core processor. Not a lot of programs can fully utilize 18 different cores. Many of the programs that you use today take up 2 to 4 max, and it's only like very, very new software that is actually utilizing more than 2 cores. So, any kind of traditional software, 4.4, it'll run it lickety split. So that's, of course, just below the i7 7700K, but the i9 does have the extra, the extra 10 cores. So, but basically, this means that the 18-core chip will be no slouch when it comes to single-threaded performance, which is always important. That's kind of what made AMD, kind of flop in recent years. Well, up until, Threadripper kind of came out, but that's kind of what made AMD flop, was that they had plenty of multi-core processing speed, but their individual clock rates were so slow that for a lot of programs, they just woefully underperformed their Intel counterparts. So Intel, and again, to be clear, all this is in response to Threadripper. I mean, they might have been cooking something up, but this was suspiciously close to the Threadripper announcement. So there's a few more. Of course, there's a few more. There's a 16-core i9 CPU, which reached a Cinebench R15 score of 3200 while running the NVIDIA GTX 1080 Ti GPU. So pretty good. And, that's, of course, that's below a 24-core Xeon. And the quad-core i7 7700K, meanwhile, scored just 966 on the same bench. So what that's saying is that, the Cinebench R15 score, they're kind of cherry-picking their numbers when they want to say that, it scored at 3200, whereas the i7 7700K, which technically runs faster, only scored at just under 1000. That does not mean that the i9 is, 3 times better than the i7. No, that just simply means for this specific set of parameters, which is undoubtedly how good is it at running multi-threaded applications, how good is it at running multiple applications at the same time. Yeah, obviously that's what it was built for, and it will score higher. So for anyone wondering, you can nab the 14 to 18 core, because there's 14, 16, and 18 version of the i9 system. And the 12 core, which is the even lower, 12 core to 8 core, that kind of thing, will be available August 28th, and the others will be available September 25th. So within the next month or so, all of these should be available for purchase. But there you have it. Sorry for throwing out so many numbers, but this is a turn in processors. And while it's still in the enthusiast category, what's in the enthusiast category will, in undoubtedly 3, 4, 5 years, will come down to the consumer level and then eventually to all levels. And multi-threaded processing is exciting if it's finally here, because you can do so much more with so many more threads and cores and that kind of thing. It's long been overdue. It's long been overdue. So there you have it. Intel Core i9 full specs out and available in the show notes. All right. So for our next story, that was a little heady. Why don't we get into... How about this one? Let's do... Yeah, why not? Tesla. Always like talking about Tesla because they do cool things. And I need to be clear here. This was tweeted out by Elon Musk. This was probably under ideal, and emphasis on ideal conditions, and probably things like downhill. But on Friday, a Tesla club in Italy announced that they had driven a Tesla Model S 100D. So not even their highest model, but still Model S. 670 miles on a single charge, which was a new record distance. And that Tesla owners Italia tweeted the news Friday with a photo of the vehicle display and a small explanation: 669.83 miles with the Tesla Model S 100D in a single charge by the Tesla owners Italy, of course, and yeah, a tweet. And yeah, if you're watching the video portion, there's the picture. Pretty impressive, almost 700 miles on a single charge. That's, that is way better than any gallon of gas. But of course, the efficiency, this was done under ideal conditions. So Elon Musk, he of course congratulated them on Twitter himself, but they're saying that before you get too excited about the idea of driving a new Model S that far on a single charge, it's important to factor in this milestone was accomplished using techniques known as hypermilling. There you have it. And when hypermilling, a driver is attempting to get maximum mileage out of their car no matter what. And in this case, according to Electric's calculations, the vehicle was probably driven around 23 miles an hour for 29 hours straight. Not exactly useful. In fact, probably pretty dangerous on many roads. That you could drive 23 miles an hour for 30 hours. And so it is still an exciting metric, however, because it shows just how far you can push electric cars if you really wanted to focus on charge efficiency. Whereas, they have, of course, they said that the EPA's official range rating for the Model S is significantly lower, which was achieved by the Tesla owners Italia, and yeah, about half for city, highway, and combined. So yeah, about 335 instead of 700. But I think the point here that Tesla is that no one wants to drive at 23 miles an hour for 30 hours. People want a car. People want to get there in a timely fashion. So all the stomping on the gas, on the brakes, on the I shouldn't even say gas anymore, on the accelerator, on the brakes, taking turns, slowing down, speeding up, uphill, downhill, all these things amount to about half as far as ideal conditions. But at the same time, there's room for improvement if you really wanted to go full-blown efficiency. So with that being said, that's the new record. If anyone out there wants to challenge it, I'm sure they will be more than happy that you are challenging their record. All right, let's get a few more in here and let's make them quick. So by that, why don't we do, oh man, I don't think net neutrality is quick at all, but we should probably tackle it. So, all right, a quick update on net neutrality, and this coming to us from /dot, and, well, saying that an anonymous reader quotes TechCrunch's newest update on the FCC's attempt to gut net neutrality protections. Saying that, quote, 10 representatives who helped craft the law governing the FCC itself have submitted an official comment on the proposal, ruthlessly dismantling it, saying that the FCC is well within its rights to interpret the law, and it doesn't have to listen to contrary comments from the likes of you and me. As in, even though 16 million comments have been left with the FCC about net neutrality, and I can guarantee you, a majority of those were against removing the protections that net neutrality enforces, they don't have to give two figs. They can be hated by 16 million commenters. They can still do what they want. But here's where the comment gets juicy. It does have to listen to Congress, where congressional intent is a huge factor in determining whether an interpretation of the law is reasonable. And in the comment they've just filed, they have a couple of House representatives there make it very clear that their intent was and remains very different from how the FCC has chosen to represent it. Very important. So the FCC, they can claim that the interpretations. They are, stifling innovation. They're doing this, that, or the other. And that the law all but requires them to do away with the Title II protections. But if that's different than the express purpose by Congress to give the internet Title II restrictions, well, they can't exactly just turn their nose up at that. And they're saying that the law directs the FCC to look at ISP services as distinct from those services that ride over the networks, and that the FCC proposal contravenes our intent. Big words. While some may argue that this distinction should be abandoned because of changes in today's market, that choice is not the FCC's to make. So they're kind of saying that, services over the internet should be controlled by those providing it because that's how it is. Obviously it gets pretty muddy there, but the decision remains squarely with those of us in Congress, and we have repeatedly chosen to leave the law as it is. And they have another letter. Again, 16 million comments have been left with the FCC since all this has started. And they said that the previous record was 4 million comments. And that was FCC's last attempt to replace net neutrality. I'm sorry, not replace, but to instill net neutrality. So you have 4 million comments to put net neutrality in place, and then 16 million comments to argue for its non-removal. There you have it. So they said that Pi has only allowed a 30-day comment period for his plan to roll back the rules. And again, this is, as much as I'm sure a lot of you are not the most excited to hear about net neutrality, it's something that should really be brought up often. And, often and often, because you may hear 16 million, that's 4 times as many as any other thing. And the last time there was even a quarter of this support, it got pushed through. Well, the ones making these decisions, there's only 3 of them. And Pi is one of them, and the other is dead set on doing this as well. So even though there's 16 million comments from supposedly 16 million people arguing against or for it, the decision at the end of the day comes down to those 3 individuals. And odds are, it's looking like 2 of them are going to vote to do away with these protections. So to kind of sit back and say, job well done, everyone. We voiced our opinion. Overwhelmingly, we are where we are. That doesn't really account for a whole lot in whether they stay or they go, because it's only up to those 3, and 2 of those are not appointed by anyone. They don't have to answer to anyone. So still a very real possibility that net neutrality will be going away. That's why it's important to stay up to date with Computer America, of course. So some of the articles that we did not get a chance to cover include, well, I really wanted to do this. Researchers develop a method for real-time speech animation. That's always been a problem. Whenever you see, animations and things like that of people moving their lips, you need a number of artists to make it look realistic, or otherwise it just looks stilted. Well, researchers have conquered that. Some other things include YouTube adds in-app direct messaging, because YouTube comments were so vitriol that they decided you should get them directly in your inbox, I suppose.
90 seconds.
Some other things include Apple TV will in the next iteration support 4K and HDR, about time, and green energy, renewables, never been greener, never been brighter, looking good. So everyone, thank you for joining us here on Computer America. This was a lot of fun, and I wanted to thank our guest, HoverCam.com. They make tools and
60
products
seconds.
for an educational system and for educational, technology bend. Check it out if you missed any of it. If you're just tuning in, you're at the end of the show, computeramerica.com for the podcast, for audio, video archives, what have you. Check it out, computeramerica.com. So until tomorrow, where we will be having on the program Accessory Power. Looking forward to this one. Tune in tomorrow. Accessory Power, more Computer America, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern. See you then. Bye, everyone.
Ten seconds.